Howdy folks, Pilgrim here. This first lesson is going to be very quick and very easy and very basic. I'm just going to be introducing you to the basic table of births, deaths and years. I'm just going to get on with the rest of it. Unlike other videos, in the Genesis timeline, I will be reading from a script, the script of my journal, of my diary, exactly as it is written there, because I think that's how I best expressed it. Okay, and it's in my own tone and for the most part, and it's just more clearly expressed. So here we go. Lesson 1, if you can call them lessons, the numbers. The Genesis timeline is the straightforward counting of numbers by order of the births listed in the book of Genesis through the first Jewish years that make up the beginning of the Jewish calendar. For example, God created Adam, so that would be our point 0 to start from. And when Adam gave birth to his son Seth, he, Adam, was 130 years old. And since we're counting from point 0, we know therefore that the year was year 130. It is as simple as that. This in fact is exactly what the whole of the Hebrew calendar is based on. From point 0, which the Jewish people call creation. So they say 230 years from creation, meaning 230 years after the creation of Adam. Okay, very easy, very simple. Having this in mind and understanding that there are both present and prophetic uses of numbers throughout the scriptures in Judaism, we get the idea that God is, for want of a better verb, so very God throughout all of his creation that we have to look at the numbers that he uses, and especially those in relation to mankind, i.e. in scripture. We have to look at them very carefully, because these numbers mean everything. There is nothing random about God whatsoever. That is impossible, and that is precisely what I mean by him being so very God in all of his creation. And as we do this, you folks and I, then and only then, accepting that all the numbers involved in scripture have a very specific purpose, then do we begin to see a much bigger picture begin to emerge. And before you think that this is just my own conspiracy theory, what I have just explained to you is straight out of rabbinical thought, stretching back to at least the last 4,000 years. So, now I'm going to show you the table. Okay? So here's a straightforward table of births, years, events and deaths which we will consult frequently throughout the 10 lessons, okay? Here's how it works. The first category is gen, the generation number of that person. So Adam is generation 1 because he was the first man, Seth is number 2, and so on. And before you ask, yes, Cain was older than Seth, but we are not including him here because his family line is not the central bloodline that leads to Jesus Christ, but Seth's is. Okay? The second category is name, obviously Adam. The third category is year, or born. The year that person was born in, Adam would be year 0, Canaan 325, and so on. The fourth category, aged, lists how old that father, for example Adam, that father was when he had his firstborn son. He was 130 years old. Seth was born in year 130. The fifth category, son, lists what year on this newly created Jewish calendar that person's son was born in, i.e. Seth was born in the year 130. So now you have like this, you see, what year he was born in. The sixth category, lived, lists how many years he, the father, had lived altogether. So Adam lived 930 years, and so on. Jared 962, and the longest man, Methuselah, generation number 8, lived 969 years, which is interesting because 8 is the number of covenant of Jesus Christ, and that was the year that he died in the same year that the flood occurred, in which 8 souls were saved in the year 1656. Now, that's all a bunch of other stuff in a different subject where we start looking at gematria and so on. And the 7th category died lists what year on this newly created Jewish calendar it was when that father died. So Adam died in the year 930. Seth died in 1042. Methuselah died in 1656. And Noah died in 2006. Okay? Study this table. See what you can note. And then I'll take you through just some of the prophetic secrets that are hidden here in this most perfect construct that I have ever seen in my life. Anyway, study this. See what you can note, and then I'll take you through through some of the prophetic secrets that are hidden here, because I mean what I say when I say this is the most perfect construct that I have ever seen in my life. Alright? This is the Genesis timeline, part 1. And this is just introducing you to the table of numbers, births and years. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video. Howdy folks, Pilgrim here. Welcome to part 2 of the Genesis timeline, the 7th day. This part is also very, very easy, and but part 3 starts to get into it, and so does part 4, and then it gets better from there on in. Okay? Let's read Matthew 24 verses 32 to 35 together, okay? And take note of every word. Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that he is near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Okay? Now, my purpose, and I'm still reading from scripted pages of my journal. My purpose in this part is to show you a picture of Matthew 24, 32 to 35 that applies here in the last days, which are now. All end times prophecy, all of it, begins with the re-establishment of Israel as a nation, which happened in May 1948. And for Abraham, think not that it is any coincidence that he was born in exactly the same year, 1948 years after Adam. Let me show you. Now I've moved a couple of my pictures around because this is very quickly becoming my workspace. And I've moved that picture there that was over there. So, okay, this timeline graph, okay? I'm going to open up something to you that you may already know, but stick with me here because it leads to things that I can guarantee you didn't know. Okay? Keep a hold of this chart. Print it out. And keep it near your computer or wherever, because you'll benefit much from referring to it again and again in the future, as well as in your own studies of the Word. Abraham is listed as being born in the year 1948. The same year as modern-day Israel being refounded as a nation in the year 1948, although on different calendars, and we can use pointers like this to recognize the leaves that Jesus was warning about in Matthew 24 to 32, when the fig tree begins putting forth its leaves. Remember? Now if you notice, Adam is said to have lived to be 930 years old, or we can say he lived until year 930. We know that Adam was told that in the day that he ate of the fruit of the tree of life that he would die. And since he did not die in the natural 24-hour day in which he ate of the fruit, we deduce that the day intended is that mentioned in 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 8. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. This brings us back to the meaning of the actual word used in Genesis, which correlates to our English word era, or period of time. There are literalists out there who dispute this reasoning and hold that the Hebrew word refers only to a 24-hour day, but who therefore, after these literalists who assert that it was a 24-hour day, cannot then explain why Adam did not die in the same 24-hour day, but went on to have kids. But it is a matter of not having researched the Hebrew properly. Why? Because all these things fit together, as you'll see. So, we are able then to now see that Adam died 70 years short of the 1,000 years, or just short of one day. So Adam did die in the day that he ate of the fruit, just as God promised. Now, I'm saying this for a reason. We're able now to see that Adam died 70 years short of the 1,000 years, otherwise known in Isaiah 23:15 as a generation. This is very important to remember. Okay, generation is 70 years. Isaiah 23:15 confirms it. 2 Peter 3 verse 8 calls 1,000 years one day. Adam dies at 930. It's interesting to note too that Adam, the first man, lived 930 years, as we have said, for another reason. He was the first generation of mankind, as Genesis 5 points out. And then when we look at Psalms 90 verse 10, we see that the following is said: the days of our years are 80 years and 10. That's 70. And if by reason of strength they be 80 years, yet is their strength labour and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away. Hopefully more on this, and also the 80 years later, because you'll need to know why the number 8 is so significant in all of this. So 80 is just as significant. To show how, hopefully more on this, and also more on the 80 years later, to show how both relate to the last generation of mankind. Also, please notice how Genesis never closes on the 7th day of creation, as it does with all the other days. And it was morning, and it was evening, and it was the 6th day, where God declares it good. We are still in the 7th day, waiting for its close, when God declares all that he sees good or very good. And Jesus promises us that this generation will by no means pass away until all these things occur. Matthew 24, Isaiah 23:15, 2 Peter 3:8, and Psalms 90 verse 10. So the last generation, the last generation starts, as we have stated above, with the re-establishment of Israel as a nation, which happened in May 1948. Now, I've repeated a lot of the information over and over here, and I wish you had taken notes. But look, there is more to this picture than just this. This is just a small part. It is a composite. This is a composite taking place that is made up of many parts, some of which I want to show you in the future. This is very exciting, and we're only just beginning to get there. Alright? Relate what you've learned in lesson 1 to lesson 2. This is why I'm asking you guys, if you will, to take notes. Relate lesson 2 to lesson 3, lesson 3 to 4, and so on. I'm just starting to lead you deeper into the rabbit hole. Okay? These are 22 generations. I've left this blank because Joseph wasn't Jesus Christ's ancestor. Jacob's son Judah was. So that's why that space is blank. But it's interesting that 22 in Hebrew is a very sacred number. It is made up of 1 signifying God plus 3 times 7. So here you have the first 22 generations of the Genesis timeline, and then Scripture goes on to list the family of Jesus Christ elsewhere, you know, and so on. But it's not so careful to list those dates as it is to list these dates, to make sure that you got all 22. The Bible is telling us something here, and many people miss it. It is very explicit. It wants you to know the first 22 generations. The rest of them is not so carefully recorded, not so plainly recorded rather, in Scripture. There is a message being sent here and most people miss it, and that's why I'm taking you through it. Okay? God bless, and I'll see you in part 3.